All right, good evening and welcome to tonight's webinar, How to Profit from the Stockscores Indicators. I'm Stockscores founder Tyler Ballhorn, and I will give you this presentation tonight as we walk through the different indicators that are available both from Stockscores and for Tradestation. So we'll begin with a look at the indicators used on Stockscores.com. I'll then show you the indicators that I've created for Tradestation and just a quick explanation of what Tradestation is. Tradestation is a analytical platform. They're actually a broker in the US. I'm in Canada, so I cannot use Tradestation as a broker, but I can subscribe to their platform, and I have created indicators for that platform that help me identify opportunities, mostly for day and swing trading. For longer term trading, I just use Stockscores, and we'll talk about that as we go through tonight. So we're going to talk about the three styles of trading and how those indicators are used. We'll look at position trading, swing trading, and day trading. I'll then talk a little bit about how you can use my indicators, both at Stockscores.com and for Tradestation, and that'll lead us into a quick discussion of the trader training options available from Stockscores. All right, so let's begin with the indicators used on Stockscores.com. And the namesake, I suppose, are the Stockscores themselves. So let's jump over to the Stockscores website, and we can pull up any stock. We'll pull up TD Bank on the Toronto Stock Exchange. And you can see here that we've got a sentiment stock score, which is an 87, and a signal stock score, which is a 98. Now, the sentiment stock score is based on the signal stock score. It's a 7-day exponential moving average of the signal. And if you look down at the bottom of the chart here, you can see this zone right here, which is your Stockscores indicators. The green line is the sentiment stock score, and the blue line is the signal. You can see that the blue line is much choppier, and the green line is kind of a smoothed out version of that. Now, I created the Stockscores to help people see good chart patterns. Stocks that are breaking through resistance from optimism, from low volatility, that sort of thing, will have spikes of the signal stock score up above 80. And so when you see those spikes, it's something to pay attention to. Now, probably the more important indicator is the sentiment stock score, which again is the green line. And for position trading, for longer term trading, this indicator really helps us to avoid bad stocks and pursue good ones. The green line should be above 60 if you are trading for position trading and longer term trades. For the most part, I actually have one strategy where we don't worry too much about that line, but for most of the time when we are looking for stocks that we're going to put in our retirement portfolio, something we maybe hold for months or years, we want that sentiment stock score to be above 60. Now, if you look at the chart of TD Bank here, you can see that in the period when TD Bank's stock was doing well, back in 2016, it went from $58 to $70. Notice that for that entire time, the sentiment line was above 60. And it didn't fall below 60 until the upward trend for TD was broken, which was right there. And at that point, the sentiment line stayed below 60 for most of the next 6 months, let's say. And during that time, the stock really wasn't very good. So we use the stock scores as a tool to help us see good chart patterns. And there's actually 3 rules that revolve around those stock scores indicators. And if you want to know exactly how they work, go into the trader training area, go to getting started, and then select the video on the stock scores indicators right here. So if I click on this, I can watch a video that explains the stock scores 3 rules. And you can see it here. They're basically, we need the signal stock score above 80, the sentiment stock score above 60, and a predictive chart pattern. Now this particular video will go into more detail about how that works. I'm not going to go into that tonight because you can watch the video. It's simpler to do it that way. It's not a long video, but that's a good place to get started if you want to understand how to use the stock scores. Now I want to stress that the stock scores indicators are really just for position trading. Position trading, that's terrible handwriting, isn't it? Position trading is holding stocks for typically months, sometimes years, and it's generally taking the entry signal from the daily or the weekly chart. Now, I do have one position trading strategy which does not use the stock scores, but most of them do. And we'll come back to strategies in a little bit. Now, the other area of the Stockscores website where there are reference to a lot of indicators is the market scan tool. Now, I've got a general rule or concept, I guess, and that is this. If you do what everyone else is doing, you will get what everyone else gets, and that is basically to be average. I don't want to be average. My approach to the market is to beat the market, to do better than other people, right? So if the market earns 10% a year, I want to earn 15, 20, something more. If the market loses 4% in a bad year, I want to be better than that, maybe make 10%. In order to do that, you have to have an edge. You have to do something that's different. And so when I started trading many years ago, I looked around and I said, you know what? There's all these technical analysis indicators and there's all these people using them. How can I have an edge if I'm using something that lots of other people use? And I couldn't come up with a good answer to that. So I said, well, really what I need to do then is create my own indicators. And I started to study the performance of stocks that had done very well. And I realized that most stocks that beat the market start their market-beating trends with abnormal price and abnormal volume. And typically this abnormal price and abnormal volume breaks through resistance if you're looking for buying opportunities, or breaks down through support if you're looking for shorting opportunities. And generally, if you're buying, there is optimism in the chart, which is rising bottoms. And if you're shorting, generally there's pessimism in the chart, which is falling tops. And so I began to build a tool that would allow me to filter the entire market for these things which I couldn't find in a lot of other places. So let's jump back to the Stockscores website, go to the Market Scan tool, and here you will see lots of different filters. There's, I don't know, 40 or 50 of them here. I'm not going to go into most of them simply because most of them aren't really ones that I use a lot. The ones that I use a lot are the abnormal activity indicator, where I can select stocks that are having an abnormal day up or down, and the abnormal volume indicator, where I can select stocks that are trading much more volume than normal. And the reason is quite simple. Stocks that move faster than the market, like this one, do so by starting their market-beating trend with abnormal activity. Now, this is a stock that I bought right here. This is a daily chart. And you'll notice on that day, the price gain was much greater than we had seen for some time. And the volume traded, it's a little bit distorted because of this big volume day, but this day's volume was also much bigger than most days. Now, I don't know anything about what this company does, don't really care. What I know is that the people who follow this company very closely, that know it very well, were buying on that particular day because they had some new information that justified them paying a higher price. And I am a trader who likes to follow the smart money. If nobody cared about a stock, like it was here, where the stock was trading with very, very low volatility, nothing happening. Look at the volume. There's almost non-existent there. And then one day it jumps up like this, and it trades much more volume than normal. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that the people that follow this company the closest have heard a rumor, perhaps there's been a news release, something is out there, some new information is out there that warranted these people going from being willing to pay $1 a share to being willing to pay $1.30 a share. And that's all I do. And that's all I've ever done for the last 20, 25 years, is I look for stocks that are behaving abnormally. And those are the most powerful tools in the market scan. I can go into the market scan and I can tell the tool to look for all the stocks that had an abnormal day up with abnormal volume. Then I can add in some other criteria like trading at least 1,000 times a day, so I get relatively liquid stocks, not illiquid stocks. And I could say also breaking through 5-day resistance. And I've just built a little market scan that I can now run, and it searches through every stock that trades in North America, and it found almost instantly 33 stocks that today did that. Now, my next step is to view those charts so that I can inspect them to see if they have a good chart pattern. And so for that, we have something called the gallery viewer, which is this tool right here. And I can look at that chart and say, all right, well, this stock tried to make a break today, and I know it's a little hard to see because it's so small. Volume was pretty strong, price action was pretty strong, but it failed to close near its high of the day. If I zoom in on this a little more, you'll see that. See how there's a long tail there? What that tells me is that people were selling into this stock into the close, and it couldn't close near the high of the day. I don't really like that. So there's all these little rules that I've developed over the last 25, 30 years from trading that I know are pretty effective at identifying the stocks with the best potential. This one has very good potential, but the problem is it already has moved up so much relative to its history. I don't think there's enough upside to warrant the risk. I think this stock will probably get stuck at $2 a share. And given where it started today, that's not enough upside to justify the risk. So as I said, I have all these rules that I do, but it all begins with that chart pattern and the search for abnormality. Here's a stock that I bought today, ANTH. You can see that it had a very abnormal day to the upside, very abnormal volume. It's got lots more upside because it's traded at much higher prices back here. Nobody cared about the stock for the last few months. It's been drifting aimlessly, and today something happened that got investors excited. And the result is that it moved up 33% today. I bought it shortly before the close. And even though that's a big jump, remember that most market-beating stocks start their market-beating trends with abnormal activity. And so I know from experience that the probability that this stock will continue higher in the days ahead is probably about 70%, maybe 65%. I know that just from experience. So that's a bet that I'm willing to make. If I know that I have a 70% chance of making, say, $3 per share, or a 30% chance of losing $1 a share, that's a good trade to take. And I can teach you how to identify these opportunities. We'll talk about that a little later. So I've done that basic market scan, and now my job is just to go through these charts looking for the chart patterns that I know are predictive. All right, when I see one, I'll act on it by taking the trade. But what it starts out with is abnormal activity. All right, so those are the key market scan filters, and we use those primarily for longer term trading, stocks that we're going to hold for days, weeks, months, not day trading, not even really swing trading. We can also use Tradestation, which is this other software that I like to use. And in Tradestation, I've programmed it to do very similar things that we do on Stockscores. I have something I invented called an action candle. An action candle has abnormal price gain, abnormal price, and abnormal volume. And when it breaks through resistance, that combination often leads to upward trends. Now I define resistance a little differently using another indicator that I created called pivot trend lines. A message candle, which is another one of my indicators, is basically just abnormal price. It doesn't worry about volume. And then we have a volume test indicator where it's a measure just of the abnormality of the volume. These things are primarily the basis for about 90% of the trades that I do. So let's jump over to Tradestation and I'll show you a few examples. So we're going to bring up, we'll bring up one that was very strong today. I'll tell you a little story about this particular trade. So on this chart right here, this is a 2-minute chart of this stock, Celsion. I don't know what Celsion does. As I said before, I don't really care. What I'm interested in are where are my action candles firing. And if you look really closely at this chart, you will see these little pink dots. See that there? The pink dot is my action candle. It tells me that there is abnormal buying pressure, something that's not a fluke, something that has got real buyers behind it. And when I see action candles after a period where nobody cared, that gets my interest. So on Stockscores, we have a service called Active Live, where people can listen to me and watch my screen during the trading day, mostly for day trading and swing trading. And so on Active Live this morning, I found Celsion about 2 or 3 minutes after the open. And I said, this one looks to be the best of the day. We looked at about 9 stocks. Celsion was my favorite. My second favorite was MANH, much more expensive stock. But look at Celsion, what happened. From the time that that first action candle fired, which was just a little over $2 a share, till the end of the day when it closed at $6 a share, that stock made a 300% gain today. Now I'm going to tell you that that does not happen very often. However, as luck would have it, it happened yesterday as well. Here's another stock, ECYT. And again, doing my process to find action candles, which I run every morning, and which I ran yesterday morning in the Active Live service. Doesn't that look familiar? Doesn't that look exactly like what we saw with Celsion today, where we had our action candles after a period where nobody cared? And so yesterday, doing the process that I used to find the action candles in Tradestation, I found this one. At the time, it was at about $1.73, I think. By the end of the day, the stock had closed at, can't remember, just go to the end of the day here. By the end of the day, it went to $3.75. This morning, it actually opened at $6. Now again, I don't know anything about ECYT, Endocyte. Sounds like some kind of biotech company. But I buy these kinds of stocks because the market activity tells me that something is going on. Something has investors excited. And without those indicators, without the ability to see these abnormal buying coming into this stock, I could never find them in a timely way. I might see them an hour later, but an hour later means I'm paying a much higher price. And so in order to trade effectively and take advantage of these things, you need to have the indicator, plus you need to have the process to find them. Now that is a couple day trade examples. Let's use that CAPR again. Actually, no, we'll do a different one. Let's try this one. This is SITO. And this time, instead of looking at the 2-minute chart, we're going to look at the daily chart. I want everyone to look for the action candles, pink dots. Okay, there's a few on here. So there was one here. There's one here, 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 and here. Just I'll highlight them for you because they're a little bit hard to see. Now what I'm interested in is when is there an action candle that's breaking another of my indicators, this line here called a pivot trend line. It's my own definition of resistance. So this is an indicator I've had programmed into Tradestation. And on this particular day, it fired not only an action candle, but a break of that pivot trend line at $4.50 a share, $4.30 a share. Today it's at $6 a share. That's taken 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks, it's gained roughly 50%. And it all started with the action candle right there that was breaking through resistance. Now these are low price stocks. You can do it with higher price stocks as well. Here's another one that I bought, Magna. Magna is a big car parts company. And there was the action candle. That's the day I bought it. Here we are up here. Large cap stock, the kind of thing you put in your retirement portfolio, probably pays a dividend. So the big stocks can move as well. How about FedEx? I wrote about this in my newsletter because I bought it as well. I actually bought it here where the white dot is. See that white dot there? The white dot is something called a message candle. We did have an action candle about a week and a half ago, and since that time it's moved up a little bit. Look back here, action candle, price moves up. It's a super reliable indicator, but I will tell you that not every action candle leads to a market-beating trend. You have to combine it with other criteria like trendline breaks to really have it be effective. So if we are position trading, we're going to do different preset scans. So I can go back to the market scan tool here. Let's go back to Stockscores. And if I'm looking for position trades to hold long term, I might run the Stockscores simple strategy. That strategy utilizes some of those indicators that are built into Stockscores. I run the market scan, and I have a list of stocks that I then have to inspect the charts of, looking for the right kind of pattern. I can teach you what the pattern is. It'll take me a few hours of video lessons to show you that, but they're not that complicated. Here's a good one from a while ago. So this stock made an abnormal move on this day. You can see the spike in the stock scores, the spike in the volume, and it went into an upward trend. As I said earlier, almost every market-beating trend, if you go look at the charts of stocks that have done really well, over and over again, you will see that their upward trends start with abnormal activity. Here's Westport. There's abnormal price action, abnormal volume, stock went up. Going back to here, abnormal price action, stock went up. You can do this over and over again. It almost gets monotonous because it happens so often. Here's AGF. This is a big mutual fund company, I believe, or insurance company, I don't even know. But look at this, abnormal volume, abnormal price. Over the next 8 months, the stock has gone from, let's call it $5.75 to $8 a share. This is a safe, large cap company. You put 10 of those in your retirement portfolio a year, and if they can average 15-20% a year in return, you've dramatically beat the market. It doesn't work all of the time. That's why we also have good risk management, so that when it doesn't work, you can limit the size of your losses. Look at Transat. Abnormal action, abnormal volume, stock scores above 60, above 80. What happens to it? Don't take my word for it. Go into Stockscores later and just pull up charts of stocks that you know have done well, and you will see this happen over and over again. So that's how we would use it for position trading. We scan the market with one of the preset scans, or you can build your own, and then you inspect the charts for the right patterns. I teach you what to look for. I'll show you how to do that in a moment. Another strategy I like to do is the abnormal break strategy. I do this daily. Go into my market scan tool, select abnormal breaks US, let's say. We can do it for US or Canada. Let's do the US version. Run the market scan. I got 51 charts to look at, and I just go through and look at the charts one at a time. If I want to look at large charts, I can switch this to large charts, and I can just zip through these looking for the right pattern breaks. And when I see one, there's ANTH again, which I looked at earlier. Zoom in on this a little bit. How about 6 months? There I can see the abnormal action breaking through resistance from stability. That stock is a good candidate. I bought this with my own money today. I also featured it in my daily newsletter that goes out to my members. Okay, so that's the abnormal break scan. So I have one other one. For those of you that don't want to do this work daily, we have another one called the Stockscores Simple Weekly. And that one you only do the work once a week. for longer term trades, typically holding for months. If you read my weekly newsletter, that's often how I find the stocks written about in the weekly newsletter. I'm using that particular scan. So process, scan the market with a preset, one of the strategies, or build your own, and then inspect the charts for the right patterns. Oops. Sorry, I just broke something. I'll fix it. Now, swing trading, you can utilize the Stockscores indicators as well. So if I jump back to the Stockscores website, I can run a different scan for swing trading. Now, what is swing trading? Holding stocks shorter term, usually days or a couple of weeks. If I want to do that, I'll run a scan every morning. I run this one, the morning movers, Canada or the US. And if I'm doing it in the afternoon, I switch to the abnormal break scan. Those are great ways to find swing trades. You can also run the simple swing strategy, which is right there. Okay, these are presets that correspond to a strategy that's explained in the Education Center. I'll talk about that in a moment. Now, if you want to be even more aggressive, more short-term, then you can use the Stockscores indicators I've created for Tradestation, looking for action candles on the daily, 13 or 30-minute chart. So let's go back into Tradestation, and I'll show you another way that I do this. So we'll use Celsius as this. Now, if I'm swing trading, the minimum time frame I want to look at is the 13 minutes. So I'm going to switch this lower chart here to a 13-minute chart. Everyone see the pink dot? Okay, so if I'm looking for swing trades with Tradestation, I would say, oh, look at the pink dot right there. After the stock is trading in a way that nobody cared about it. Look at the spike in volume. To this day, I have no idea. This was the hot stock of the day. I have no idea what they do. I don't care. I just could tell from the market action that something was going on. So buy it as a swing trade there. You'd still be holding that because it hasn't given a sell signal yet. It's still in a nice upward trend. So when we're using Tradestation for swing trading, we're going to rely on our action candles, abnormal volume, and our breaks through pivot trend lines. And if we're day trading, well, then we're going to use that 2-minute action candle on the 2-minute time frame. Same indicator, just applied to a shorter time frame. Real focus on abnormal volume, looking for breaks through resistance. It improves the quality. And we just monitor our watch list. So what I do every morning is I create a watch list, and then I monitor that watch list looking for entry signals. That's all done on this screen that I have here. This is a Tradestation screen. I teach you how to set stuff like this up. And then I build my watch list, and I monitor the watch list for an entry signal. I can show you on Celsius where that occurred. So first of all, we had what's called the worm strategy entry right here. And just to avoid confusion, I'll remove those lines. And then we had what's called a pullback play entry. I have two different strategies. So this is a pullback play. This one is a worm. Two different strategies. And so this one returned almost 6 times reward for risk by the end of the day. This one actually returned 23 times the risk by the end of the day. That means if I risked $100 with a buy at that opening candle, I made $2,300. On this entry, if I risked $100, I made about $600 by the close. I want to stress, when I say risk $100, that doesn't mean only putting $100 into the trade. That means risking $100. The risk is the difference between your entry price and your stop loss price. And so in this case, that's about 30 cents. So you would have bought, say, 3,000 shares. No, 300 shares. Really? 3,000. Now I'm all confused. No, 3,000 shares. So 3,000 shares for $100 a risk at $220. By the end of the day, it was worth 18,000. Is that right? Seems too good to be true. Anyway, I'm a little tired today. I can't even do the math in my head. I'm usually pretty good at that, but you get the idea, hopefully. Okay. Day trading. We have 3 primary strategies that we do: the intraday pullbacks, the worm, the superhero. Those are all done with Tradestation. I want to stress that I have nothing to do with Tradestation. I don't get any money from them for telling people to use it. It's what I use. I've used it for 15 years. You have to subscribe to it, or you have to have a brokerage account with them. If you are in the US, you can have a brokerage account with them, or many places in the world. If you are in Canada, you cannot have a brokerage account with them, so you have to subscribe to the platform. And that costs about $300 a month to subscribe to it. That's Canadian. 300 to 350 depends on the exchange rate. That to me is my cost of doing business. That's, if I was going to open a restaurant, I would pay rent for some space. If I'm going to day trade, this is my overhead. Monthly fee to get data and great analytical software. It's part of running a business as a trader. Now, how do you get these indicators? I want to stress something really important. The more an indicator is used, the less effective it becomes. So the more people that use it, the less it works, because the opportunities get taken away. And so I don't give out my indicators. Nobody knows the code for those indicators except for me. And I only give those indicators out to a small number of people. Stockscores is not a website that is widely used because I don't market it a lot. And because of that, these indicators work. If I had tens of thousands of users, I don't know that they would work as well as they do. So the only way to get the Stockscores indicators on Stockscores is to be either a foundation, investor, or active trader member. The only way to get the market scan strategy presets for Stockscores, in other words, my strategies, is to be an investor or active trader member. And the only way to get the Stockscores indicators for Tradestation is to be an active trader member. Now, what does that mean? Well, let's first look at the Education Center on Stockscores. If I go into Trader Training and go to the Education Center, and many of you have seen this before, but this is where all of my online education is. Here's the foundation education, teaches you the theory behind what I do. And then we have the strategies. We have the investor strategies, and we have the active trader strategies. I have a new investor strategy coming soon, and I have the worm strategy, which is an active trading strategy, coming soon. Should be in the next month or so. I'm just putting the fine-tuning on the strategy, and then I will upload them with a video and a write-up. And I'm always trying to come up with new things. All right. So what happens if you are a foundation member, then you would learn how to read chart patterns. So you could click on this lesson, you could read it, you could watch the video, you could do the assignment, you could do the test. If you are an active trader member, you get access to all the foundation material, but you also get access to the investor material and the active trader material. If you're an investor member, you get access to the investor material and the foundation material. Basically, foundation is theory, investor and active trader are the actual strategies. The rules for when to buy, when to sell, how to manage risk, all that sort of stuff. Okay, so that is the Education Center. Within the Trader Training, you're going to learn my strategies. It's based on 27 years of trading experience. If you want more information on those courses, what I recommend you do, because I don't want to spend a lot of time going over it in this webinar, is go to the Stockscores website, go to the Trader Training area, and just go to the Learn How to Trade area. And there's a bunch of videos on this page. Each of the courses is described. Pricing is all there. And you can watch some videos. They're not too long. Each video is a few minutes. And it explains each course. Now, I'm going to be doing some live training in November. I may do the mentorship where I teach you for 16 weeks, an hour a week over live webinars. Haven't decided on that yet. If you're interested in that, send me an email. That'll help me decide if there's enough people interested in it. But we will be doing some live training in November, which is done by webinar, much like this webinar tonight. A lot more in-depth than this, of course, because we're going to go into the actual rules of when to buy and sell and all that sort of thing. And that'll start up in November. So anyone that takes any of these courses between now and then, or did so in the last couple of months, they're going to get this live training in November included. I think that's going to start November 18th. Now, what do these courses cost? It's all Canadian dollars. Foundation is $9.95, Investor is $24.95. Investor includes Foundation, so you're not paying both. If you do that, you get this as well. Active Trader is $34.95, and that gives you also Investor, and it gives you Foundation. So you basically get everything below that level. So if you want to be a day and swing trader, then you want to do the Active Trader course. If you just want to be an investor doing the work once a day or once a weekend, then you want to do the Investor course. If you just want to do theory and not learn my strategies, then the Foundation is fine. I think it's a much more lucrative pursuit to go after my strategies. I've spent years developing them. The mentorship will be $54.95. It includes the Active Trader. It includes the Investor. It includes the Foundation. Now, with these courses, not the Foundation, but the Investor, Active Trader, and Mentorship, if it's your initial purchase of it, you get 6 months access to my tools and my indicators. After 6 months, you can either subscribe for $29 a month or $49 a month, depending on what subscription level you're at. Really, the better deal is to just do $300 a year. So you get 6 months free with the Investor, Active, or Mentorship, and then you can renew that for $300 a year. If you want a breakdown of how all that works, go into Trader Training, go to Products and Services, and there's a grid that explains all of the different courses and what's included, different options, that sort of thing. And the pricing is all there as well. Now, the one thing I want to talk about to end tonight is the Stockscores Active Live. Not everyone wants to learn how to use Tradestation or wants to pay for Tradestation, and so you can watch me do the work for you. I've built algorithms in Tradestation to ring alerts when there is an entry signal. I go through the process to build the watch list. I go through the process to identify the worm trades, the swing trades. We do about an hour in the opening hour of the day, and then we do about half an hour at the end of the day. In the middle of the day, my computer just monitors for entry signals. That service is only available to Active Trader students. It's $195 a month. Here's how it looks. You see a screen like this. I'm in my home, you're in yours. You see my screen. When there is an alert, it rings a bell. It'll show a little alert like that. And you will see a little window pop up in the bottom right-hand corner. And if there's an actual trade alert, it will sound the alert. You'll hear the word strategy alert, like you just heard now. And that trade will then be posted over on the left. You don't take every trade that comes along. There's a lot of trades here. These are the computer's identification of stocks that meet the requirements of the strategy, but we still inspect those, and in this case there's maybe 30 trades here. I might only have taken 10 of them because we have some other rules we apply. All right, but that's how Active Trader works, and again, that's a service that's only available if you are an Active Trader student. Oops. So before I wrap up, I will take some questions in a moment, but I just want to give you my contact information. If you have any questions about my indicators, about the courses, about trading in general, you can fire me an email. You can follow me on Twitter. I recommend you do that. I post little comments about trading. I really recommend you subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's there's the address right there. Or just go to YouTube and do a search for Stockscores. Every week I put out my market analysis for the week, quick video that does my analysis of the overall markets and talk about a recent trade I did and try to explain why, that sort of thing. So that's pretty much the end. I'll take some questions now. I want to thank you all for joining me for this webinar. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. Otherwise, I will see you at the next one. I'm going to do a few on a regular basis now. And if you have any topics that you'd like me to cover, you can certainly email me as well. Otherwise, we'll see you at the next one, and trade well. Thanks, guys.